Imagine waking up one day in a world where nothing challenges you anymore. No sharp edges, no sudden storms, no unfamiliar roads. The coffee is always warm. The temperature is always just right. The chairs are molded to your spine. The notifications are tailored to your tastes. Every app knows what you want before you do. You glide through the day like a feather through windless air, untouched, untested, unmoved. And for a while, it feels like peace. But something begins to rot inside you, slowly, quietly, like bread, sealed in plastic, soft on the outside, mold at the core. You stop dreaming of more because what you have is enough. You stop asking questions because the answers no longer matter. You feel yourself disintegrating not from pain, but from the absence of it. Here's the paradox. You have everything you need, but you are slowly becoming nothing. Not broken, not lost, just irrelevant to yourself. There was a time, wasn't there, when fire lived in your bones, when you longed to prove something not to the world, but to that secret voice inside you, that whispered, you were meant for more. Now that voice is quiet, suffocated by warm blankets and glowing screens. When did you stop chasing what was hard? When did you start mistaking safety for meaning? You used to leap recklessly, foolishly, beautifully. Now, you tiptoe across padded floors, calculating every step so nothing surprises you. But what is a life that avoids all surprise? What is a soul that never dares? The ancient Greeks knew this danger. They warned of apatheia, a state not of peace, but of numbness. The Stoics praised endurance, not comfort. Nietzsche once said, he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. But what happens when there is no how left to bear? No weight, no struggle. Do you even need a why in a world where nothing hurts you anymore? And yet, something does hurt. But it's not external. It's deeper. You feel like a ghost inside your own skin. Your legs still work, but you don't run. Your voice still functions, but you don't speak what matters. Your heart still beats, but only just enough to keep you alive. You've become domesticated, like a lion born in a zoo, never knowing it was made for the wild. And here's the cruelest part. The cage isn't locked. It never was, so why don't you leave? Why don't you chase the danger you secretly crave? Because comfort is a velvet rope. It wraps itself around your limbs like luxury, but it pulls tighter every day until motion itself becomes terrifying, until change feels like death, until you forget that fear was once your compass, not your prison. You were not built for constant ease. Your ancestors crossed mountains barefoot. They bled for warmth, hunted for truth, risked madness just to feel alive. And you scroll, you delay. You numb, you trade your wildness for Wi-Fi, your courage for convenience, your birthright for a borrowed illusion of peace. So here's the question. Has your comfort become your cage? And if so, how long will you wait before it eats you alive? From the inside out. The truth is not gentle. It's not soft or soothing or polite. The truth is this. Comfort doesn't protect you. It devours you. It offers safety but steals growth. It whispers rest but means decay. And you who were once a roaring flame are now a flicker in a windless room. But there's still time. You can still remember what it meant to ache, to hunger, to burn, to leap into the cold unknown and feel your heart slam against your ribs, not from fear, but from being fully alive. Are you willing to feel that again? Or will you settle for soft death, smiling behind a screen? Because whether you realize it or not, Comfort has already made its offer. The question is, have you already said yes? And if you have, will you dare to say no? Sector, you were not born afraid of discomfort. You crawled before you could walk, fell before you could speak, reached for fire before you understood it could burn. Your early years were forged in chaos, emotional storms, unsteady steps, scraped knees and wild wonder. But somewhere along the way, you were taught that pain is the enemy, not directly. No one sat you down and said, avoid everything that hurts. It was subtler than that. A mother saying, be careful. A teacher frowning when you questioned too much. A society rewarding you for obedience, not originality. A culture selling you comfort as the pinnacle of success, a soft couch, a steady income, a predictable life. You didn't reject your wildness. You were slowly sedated. Psychologically, the seeds were sown early. The brain learns to associate reward with safety and punishment with challenge. Dopamine doesn't surge when you wrestle with uncertainty, flows when you get likes, when the temperature's just right, when the algorithm serves you what you didn't even know you craved. But those are false rewards. Cotton candy for the soul, sweet, soft, and empty. Carl Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Comfort is the most seductive of those absurdities, because it's not evil, it's not loud, it's not violent, it's quiet, it's reasonable. It whispers, why suffer when you don't have to? And here lies the root of the problem. We've mistaken comfort for progress. We assume that a life of ease means we've made it. But what if ease is not a reward, but a trap, a final stillness before decay? Nietzsche warned of the last man, the modern soul who seeks nothing beyond survival and entertainment. No striving, no agony, no greatness, just comfort and warmth. A creature so afraid of pain that it extinguishes all ambition. Sound familiar? You were never meant to stay still. Your psyche evolved through adversity. Challenge is not a glitch. The source code. Muscles grow from resistance. So does the mind. So does the spirit. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote, satisfaction is death. That's not a call to endless suffering, but a warning. If nothing ever stings, stretches, or scars, you're not living. You're fading. So why does this matter? Because in this modern world, we've built systems around sedation. We are medicated against sadness, digitally distracted from boredom, entertained through every quiet moment that might have once led to introspection. You never sit in silence long enough to meet yourself. And why would you? The moment your thoughts start to stir, there's an app for that. Lonely, scroll, restless, stream, anxious, swipe, angry, shop, empty. Post. We've replaced inner growth with emotional outsourcing. Instead of developing resilience, we seek relief. Instead of confronting discomfort, we click it away, and the cost. You lose the one thing that made you human, your capacity to transform. Jean-Paul Sartre believed that freedom is terrifying, because to be truly free is to be responsible for who you become. So most people, he said, choose bad faith, a denial of their own freedom. They adopt roles, routines, and comforts to escape the burden of choosing boldly. Comfort, then, isn't just physical, it's existential. It's a way of hiding from truth, from effort, from becoming. But there's more. The psychological mechanisms go deeper. Consider hedonic adaptation, the brain's tendency to normalize pleasure. That luxury mattress you saved for. It thrilled you once, Now it's just a bed. The promotion you longed for. You celebrated. Then it became Monday again. Comfort, no. Matter how grand, always plateaus. It's never the answer. It just raises the floor. And what you once saw as bliss now feels like a baseline. And still, you chase more, but feel less. That's because you weren't designed to be content with stillness. You're not a machine seeking optimal conditions. You are a becoming, a soul in motion. Viktor Frankl, a man who survived the hell of Auschwitz, wrote that humans do not seek pleasure, but meaning. And meaning is born not in ease, but in challenge. In suffering, voluntarily endured for something greater than the self. But in today's world, we've confused meaning with mood. If we feel good, we assume life is good. And so we build entire existences around avoiding anything unpleasant. The result, a crisis of depth. A generation fluent in emojis, but estranged from their own emotional landscapes. People who are perpetually busy but fundamentally empty. Restless, yet unmoved. Alive, yet not truly living. This isn't just about laziness. It's not about kids these days. It's structural, it's philosophical, it's spiritual. We've mistaken anesthesia for peace. And the longer we remain sedated, the harder it becomes to remember what it feels like to burn, to hunger, to strive against impossible odds, not for a guarantee, but for the glory of the fight itself. So we settle, we shrink, we stay where it's soft, and little by little we become cowards, not because we are weak by nature, but because comfort has starved our courage. And so we must ask, what has comfort cost you already? The book you never wrote, the truth you never told, the risk you never took, the life you never claimed. You cannot be brave without something to fear. You cannot be strong without something to lift. You cannot become more without first leaving what feels safe. And deep down, you know this. You feel it every time the silence creeps in. Every time. You lie in bed wondering, is this all there is? Every time you pretend not to hear the call toward more difficult things, the question isn't whether discomfort is painful. It is. The question is, what kind of pain do you want? The pain of growth or the pain of regret? Sec 3 at first. The consequences are invisible. You don't notice your spine softening. You don't hear the silence where once your convictions thundered. You don't see the shrinking because it's happening inside. It begins with hesitation. You pause before speaking the truth. You choose quiet instead of confrontation. You nod when you want to resist. Because why risk discomfort when you can keep things smooth? Why make waves when stillness feels so safe? But slowly, imperceptibly, that caution calcifies into a kind of paralysis. You stop applying for what you truly want. You stop pushing yourself beyond what you know. You stop asking the hard questions that used to keep your spirit sharp, and yet you remain busy. You still move. You still function. You still smile. That's the genius of comforted. Doesn't kill you quickly. It starves you with soft hands. It dresses up decay as stability. It lets you survive just enough to not realize you're dying. This is not hyperbole. It's neurology. Your brain is wired for safety. The amygdala scans for threat. It rewards you when you avoid uncertainty. But here's the trap. The same circuits that protect you from danger can also protect you from change, and that is where transformation dies. You stop growing because your brain confuses unfamiliar with unsafe. So you retreat into routines. You stop dreaming. You develop what psychologists call learned helplessness, a belief that struggle is futile. So better not to try. And this inner retreat starts to reshape the outer world. You surround yourself with people who never challenge you. You curate your feed to only show you what you agree with. You label discomfort as toxic and call detachment self-care. Soon, your entire environment becomes a mirror that flatters but never reflects. You begin to feel strangely hollow, not miserable, just muted, like you're living someone else's version of your life, because in some ways you are. Comfort doesn't just strip you of courage, it manufactures a counterfeit identity. You become what the culture rewards: safe, predictable, polished, palatable, not too angry, not too strange, not too loud, not too alive. The result is a quiet epidemic. People with clean homes and cluttered hearts. People who achieve more and feel less. People who are terrified not of dying but of living fully. And that fear begins to seep into society. We begin to praise the bland. We cancel the provocative. We medicate ambition. We demonize risk. We legislate against spontaneity. We censor intensity, whether it's pain or passion. In the name of progress, we build systems that optimize for comfort. Fast food, fast shipping, fast answers, fast relief. But what we sacrifice in that speed is depth. A society addicted to comfort becomes allergic to difficulty. And when that happens, truth becomes dangerous. Because truth is rarely convenient. It disrupts, it offends, it stings. But if you've built your entire identity around not being shaken, then even mild truth can feel like violence. So we start self-censoring. We hold back the real questions. We bury the real grief. We ignore the real desires. And this too has a consequence. Not just emotional, but moral. Because in the absence of courage, cowardice becomes a virtue. You're praised for playing it safe, rewarded for staying small, protected from consequences, but also from growth. We've created generations of people who fear judgment more than failure, who avoid discomfort more than dishonor, who would rather be liked than be real. The psychologist Erich Fromm called this the escape from freedom. The burden of being fully alive is too great. So we retreat into numbness, conformity, distraction, and what's most terrifying is this: the longer you stay in comfort, the more terrifying discomfort becomes. Eventually, a cold shower feels like torture. A difficult conversation feels like betrayal. A moment of silence feels like death. You become emotionally brittle. Any challenge shatters you. Any resistance breaks you, because you've built no muscle, only pillows, only walls, only sedation. You become incapable of holding complexity, unable to sit with paradox. You want clean answers, quick fixes, pleasant truths, but reality was never meant to be easy. It was meant to break you open, and when it does, if you've trained yourself to avoid all discomfort, you will collapse. The price, not just personal stagnation, but existential fragility. You can't face loss because you never practiced letting go. You can't face failure because you never risked. You can't face yourself because you never sat in silence long enough to meet what lives beneath the noise. And so the world becomes a threat, not because it is, but because you've become too soft to engage with it. You were never meant to be this fragile, this dependent, this sedated. You were made to endure, to wrestle, to struggle, to become dot. And every time you avoid that, you fracture just a little more. You lose a little more trust in your own strength. You doubt your own resilience. You outsource. your hope, and worst of all, you stop believing that a different life is even possible. But it is. It always is. Even now, if you're willing to rebel, if you're willing to reclaim what comfort has stolen from you, if you're willing to walk into the fire, not to be burned, but to remember that you're still alive. Sec for rebellion doesn't always look like fire. Sometimes it's a whisper in the dark, a hand trembling as it reaches for the cold, a breath held before a leap, a single no in a world begging for your compliance. To break free from the trap of comfort is not to reject pleasure, it is to reclaim pain, because pain is not the enemy. It is a teacher, a purifier, a forge. The question is not how to avoid discomfort. The question is how to choose it deliberately, how to walk into the unknown with open eyes and a steady heart. The first act of rebellion. Stop numbing the moment you feel the itch for escape. Don't scratch it. Let the silence linger. Let the boredom swell. Let the grief spill. Stay with it. Don't reach for the phone. Don't pour another drink. Don't scroll. Don't swipe. Don't run, because in that stillness lives something sacred. Your buried strength. It's not gone. It's dormant, waiting, watching, wondering if you'll ever come back for it. And when you do, it won't greet you with fanfare. It will test you, challenge you, break you open so that you remember. Growth is never painless, but it is always worth it. Start small. Start where it hurts, just enough to make you flinch. Take the cold shower. Have the hard conversation. Tell the truth you've buried for years. Sit alone for an hour with no distractions. Write the page. You're afraid won't be perfect. Speak even if your voice trembles. You are not aiming for comfort anymore. You are building resilience. And that is the antidote to cowardice. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the lifelong task of becoming whole. It is not about achieving balance. It is about confronting the parts of yourself you have exiled. The anger, the shame, the desire, the hunger, the ambition. These are not your enemies. They are your power in disguise. But to meet them, you must break the spell of sedation. You must willingly turn toward your own shadow. And when you do, you'll begin to remember what it felt like to feel everything again. The second act of rebellion. Refuse ease as your default. Ease is no longer the goal. It is the test. When something feels too smooth, ask, is this real or just familiar? Train yourself to seek what challenges you, not for the sake of suffering, but because challenge is where life sharpens you. Philosophers knew this. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. You grow by pushing through, not by stepping around. You become by enduring, not by escaping. And when you start living this way fiercely, you begin to shift. You walk into the cold morning because it wakes something primal in you. You chase the difficult goal because it calls something ancient in your blood. You show up to the painful truth because you'd rather hurt than be numb. You stop negotiating with fear. You stop asking permission to be bold. And you remember, you were never meant to be domesticated. There's a wildness in you, a danger, a flame that once terrified you because it cannot be controlled. But that flame is you, and without it, you're just a shadow walking someone else's path. The third act of rebellion. Rebuild your environment. You cannot become a warrior in a room full of pacifiers. If your life is structured to soothe, you will forget how to suffer well, so disrupt your routines. Wake earlier. Leave the comfort zone of people who flatter your smallness. Read things that unsettle you. Move your body past the point of exhaustion. Touch the edges of your limits and ask what lives beyond this. Reframe failure, not as proof you weren't enough, but as evidence that you dared. History doesn't remember the safe. It remembers the broken, the bold, the ones who bled for something. Beyond their own survival, Sartre said, man is nothing else but what he makes of himself. Then make something unrecognizable, something vast, something real. You will lose people. You will be called reckless. You will be misunderstood. Good. Because if the world understands your rebellion, you're probably not going far enough. You are not here to be understood. You are here to become, and becoming is messy, violent, liberating, the fourth act of rebellion. Choose purpose over pleasure. This is not about asceticism, it's about alignment. Pleasure is fleeting, but purpose is grounding, and purpose is always inconvenient. It will wake you at 4 a.m. It will make you walk into rooms where no one claps. It will demand more than you think you have. It will not congratulate you, but it will make you whole. Nietzsche believed that suffering becomes bearable, even beautiful, when it's in service of a deeper why. Find that why. Bleed for it. Bury your fear beneath it. This is the only way out, not through avoidance, but through holy confrontation. A life worth living will break you again and again. But if you rise every time, not softer, but sharper than comfort has not claimed you, then you are not a coward. You are a rebel, a builder, a storm in human form. So step outside. Feel the wind. Let the rain sting your skin. Let life scrape against your soul. Don't run from it. Run into it. That's where you'll remember who you really are. Sec 5. You thought comfort would save you. That if you just built a life with fewer risks, fewer confrontations, fewer questions, you'd be safe, you'd be whole, you'd be happy. But here's the final, most brutal truth. What you thought was saving you was dismantling you. Not with violence, not with cruelty, but with silence, with stillness, with softness that turned sharp the moment you stopped resisting. And now, after all the miles you walked, trying not to hurt, not to fail, not to feel, you stand at the threshold of something more terrifying than pain. A life that never mattered, because the ultimate fear isn't suffering, it's wasting the suffering. It's having nothing to show for it. It's realizing that the moments you most tried to avoid were the only ones that could have shaped you into something real that you were born to burn, to rise and fall and rise again, to get your hands dirty, to taste the metallic sting of failure, to fight for something that doesn't come with a guarantee, not to win, but to fight. You weren't supposed to win every time. You weren't supposed to be liked by everyone. You weren't supposed to be untouched by storms. You were supposed to weather them. You were supposed to become the kind of person who stands on scorched earth with eyes still full of light. The most powerful realization is not that comfort creates cowards, but that you chose it, again and again. Every time you said, maybe, later, every time you nodded instead of speaking your truth, every time you stayed when your soul begged you to leave, every time you reached for the easier path, you were not defeated, you conceded. You handed yourself over not to fate, but to fear dressed in comfort's clothing. And now you get to choose again. That is the terrifying freedom no one talks about. That no matter how long you've been sedated, domesticated, lulled to sleep, you are still free. You can still choose the wild, the edge, the fire. You can still become the thing you were afraid of, not the monster, but the self who no longer apologizes for wanting more. And when you do, the world won't make it easy, because the world runs on your sedation, your compliance, keeps the machine humming. Your fear funds the ads, your silence fills the seats, your comfort is someone else's currency, so you have to walk away from applause that means nothing, from validation that weakens you, from rituals of mediocrity disguised as success. And you do it not because you hate the world, but because you finally love yourself enough to stop abandoning what you could become. There is no map for this. You will lose things, friends, routines, identities, the life you thought you were supposed to want. But in their place, something ancient begins to bloom. A clarity, a hunger, a rawness, a depth that no comfort ever offered you. You look in the mirror and see someone you don't recognize, not because you're lost, but because you're finally new. And this time you earned it. Not by numbing, but by enduring. Not by hiding, but by confronting. Here's what they never told you. The purpose of life is not to be comfortable, it is to transform. The soul does not grow in padded rooms. It grows in wild forests, in dark nights, in honest pain. Safety is not your salvation, it is your sedation. You were not put here to survive the day. You were put here to rupture, to shatter what is false, to chase what is impossible, to scream when silence would be easier, to choose love when apathy would be safer, to tell the truth even if it burns bridges you thought you needed. The coward seeks comfort, the warrior seeks clarity, and clarity will always cost you. It will cost you illusions. It will cost you the fragile approval of the masses. It will cost you the right to complain about a life you refuse to change. But what it gives you yourself. Whole, ragged, undeniable, free. That is the deepest rebellion, to meet yourself fully, without anesthesia. To say I would rather feel everything than feel nothing at all. I would rather fall than live a life where I never jumped. I would rather bleed than never be touched by life's sharpest edges. So now the choice is yours. You can return to the soft cage, the gentle decay, the slow death, or you can rise. Not perfectly, not instantly, but intentionally. You can reclaim every part of yourself comfort tried to silence. Your anger, your fear, your fire, your foolish hope, your impossible dream, because the ones who change the world, they are not the safest, they are not the most agreeable, they are not the most comfortable, they are the ones who said yes to the dark, yes to the climb, yes to the pain, because they knew what waited on the other side was not comfort, but freedom. And now, so do you. So don't wait. Reignite the flame, break the shell, walk into the fire, and when it burns, smile, because you finally remembered what it feels like to be alive.